Hi everyone, this is Cindy Guentert-Baldo, and today we are talking brush pens. Brush pens that I use in my planner, but most of them are just brush pens I use for brush lettering in general. So let's just jump right into it. And let me preface this by saying, number one, I'm not an expert on brush lettering at all. Number two, I'm not an expert on markers at all. And number three, these are all pens I personally own and have tried. I have not tried all of the pens out there as much as I want to. When you're talking about brush pens, you talk about their nib. Now their nib is like this part here. It's the part that the ink comes out of. Some nibs are hard, some nibs are soft, some nibs are firm, some nibs are flexible, some nibs are large, some nibs are small. It's kind of like some other things, size doesn't always matter, but shape and what you do with it, that's what really matters. And that's kind of how it works for brush pens as well as other things. I like my nibs to be a little firmer, but big, firm and big in all areas of my life. So so note that there's a bias there. Some people prefer more flexible nibs. Some people prefer smaller nibs. Some people prefer, all sorts of things. You're never going to know until you try and you give yourself quite a bit of time practicing, making the up and down strokes, getting the idea if this is something that you'll enjoy. First of all, we're going to talk about Faber-Castell artist pens. Now this is a pen that I talked about in the first video with their other tips, like their writing nibs. Faber-Castell pens are India ink. They're waterproof, which means that they're great to use in art, especially if you're going to be putting wet medium down on wet media or wet other things on top of it after it's already dried. You got to make sure to let it dry. The nibs for these brush pens are more firm than flexible, I would say. They are smaller though. They're not the smallest, but they're smaller. I found that this was a good pen to really start practicing lettering with because it didn't overwhelm me in how big the nib was, but it was flexible enough to really get the hang of the thin strokes and the thicker strokes. You can get these often in packs of either assorted tips. You can get a box with like a fine tip, a broad tip, and a brush tip, and I think a couple other things. If you go to Jet Pens, you can get a pack of the 4 assorted tips, including the brush, for around $12.50. And on Amazon, you can get a single brush pen. You can also get the packs there, and there's colors and stuff like that as well. But to get a single black pen on Amazon, it's around $5. I think I got mine at my art supply store for a little less than that. The next pen in the kind of more flexible, smaller nib is the Prismacolor. Now this is not the big Prismacolor markers that people have seen. These are the premier artist pens. And I think I talked about these in the other video because they also have like the really fine tipped marker pens as well. This tip is more flexible than Faber-Castell. It will make a much broader downstroke than the Faber-Castell pen. But on the same note, it's also really fun to use. I love writing with it. It's archival quality, but it is not water fast. At least it doesn't say so on the pen. It may be water-based ink. Not sure. On Amazon, you can get a solo pen for around $5. And I had to hunt for this in my art store. But on Amazon, you can also get a pack of 8 colors of brush tips, including the black, for around $16, which I think is probably the best deal. And by the way, I'm going to be linking all of these down below. Some of them might be affiliate links, so I might get a little cha-ching if you buy from them, which would be nice. Thanks, but you don't have to. Now, next, we're going to be talking about the Mangaka pens. Now, this is the flexible tip, and this is fine. I'm pretty sure that there is also a medium tip, which I don't have. Now, the Mangaka is awesome for drawing. It's got a really nice color to it. It's smudge proof with alcohol in it. It's light fast, but it might smear with water. But it's nice to draw with. You can get a little bit of variation in drawing lines. For brush lettering, to get that real distinction between thick and thin, I wouldn't recommend the Mangaka, but I do like it for doing a little bit of variation in my drawing. And they also do other tips of these besides brush, and I really enjoy the Mangaka. You can get a Mangaka on Jet Pens for around $2 for each of the different tips. We're going to talk about Tombow, but these are not the Tombow markers that I often talk about. These are different. These are Tombow, how do you pronounce it? Fude. This The Tombow Fude markers are a more like a writing type pen rather than a marker pen. There are two thicknesses. There is the soft and the hard, and they're different colors. It's hard to see, but the kind of greenish one is soft and the bluish one is hard. And there really is not a huge amount of distinction between them. I find that they're both easy to control. I think that the soft is maybe a little easier for me to control than the hard, but they're both kind of fun. They're small, like the nibs are small, so you're not going to be getting giant calligraphy with them. You're going to be getting small, which could be nice, again, if you're learning, because that way you will be able to get used to the feel of, you know, writing with brush pens without having to take up too much space. Like I said, they're both easy to control. On jet pens, you can find them each for $2.50. You could get on Amazon Prime, you can get the two of them in a set for $6, so it's cheaper to go with jet pens. On the subject of the fude no suke pens, there is the Pilot Fude pens. Pilot Fude, what is it? Pilot Fude Makase. Extra fine is the one I have. I'm pretty sure that there's other thicknesses. I just don't have them. It is similar to the Mangaka Flexible. You can get line variation, but not very many line variations. It's a very small, kind of firm nib. If you're light-handed, either this or the Mangaka, or the Tombow markers for that matter, the Tombow Fude pens would be really great for getting variations in line and practicing with. I'm more heavy-handed, so I need a little bit more flexibility in my nib, but the ink quality is great, and these are wonderful, like I said, for drawing and getting like some variation without too much in your drawing. The Pilot Fude is probably one of the more expensive brush pens that you can get on jet pens. It's around $3.30 for one of these on jet pens. This one is the Zebra disposable brush pen. It's very flexible. Very, very flexible. It's fun to play with, but it is a little, if you're new, you may be a little overwhelmed by the flexibility that you get with this nib. It's kind of difficult for me to control, but it's fun to play with. I haven't spent a ton of time with it because I have been a little nervous around it, but it's a decent price for a brush pen. You can get it on jet pens for $2.50. So it's one that you could possibly look into, especially if you're leaning towards more flexible brushes. One of the brush pens that I have a lot of fun with, and it's super customizable, are what are called Coco Iro. They're from Kuretake Zig, Coco Iro letter pens. And you buy them in the body, and then you buy the refills. So the body and the refills. The bodies run around $2 each, and they've got a whole bunch of colors. The refills run about $2.50 to $2.80 each, and they also have a whole bunch of refills. You can get different colors, you can get different tip sizes. The one I'm demonstrating here is the super fine brush. You can get a regular brush, which I don't have any of, and you can get a rollerball tip, which I also don't have any of. But the super fine is the one that I've been messing with. So, and I have, like I said, I have a few different colors barrels, different colors of refills. I especially like the blue-black. Before we move on to sets of brush pens, I want to take a minute to holla to the cheap brush pens you can get at Daiso, which is a like kind of like the Japanese dollar store. They sell things for $1.50 there. So all of these pens are $1.50. They're just, you know, cheap. They're not super easy to use. They're kind of thicker nibbed and super flexible. But if you're really broke and you're near Daiso and you want to try a brush pen out, you could try any, and these are just an example of Daiso brush pens. They have different ones all the time. A couple of different sets of brush pens where you can get different sizes of nibs within the same kind of pen family. The first one is the Sakura Pigma Professional Brush Pen set. I bought this set at my art supply store. I think it was almost $20 when I bought it there. You can actually get it on Amazon for the 3-pack around $10, and you can get it at Jet Pens individually for about $4 each. They come in this, so the pack comes with 3. You come with the FB, which is the finest point, the MB, which is the medium point, and then the BB, which is the bold point. I'm not a fan of these. I find that the fine point, this could be just the set I bought, but the fine point kind of feels dry, like the ink doesn't flow very well. The MB and the BB, the ink does flow well, but I feel like the nibs are really hard to control. Like they're flexible, but they're like, they don't obey like what I want them to do very easily. It just feels a little clumsy. So, I mean, they're nice and dark, and I would say if I was going to use any of them, I'd like the BB the most, because even though it's kind of sloppy, it creates kind of a messy artifact when you write with it, and that can be useful. However, if I was going to recommend a set of brush pens, this would probably be on the bottom of my list. So going from the bottom of my list to the top of my list when it comes to a set, these are the Kuretake bimoji pens, and these, I got a chance to try them when I met with some of the Kuretake people, and they were fun, and I went out and I bought them. There's actually an additional pen that's not included in the one of the, I have 3 of them. I think there's at least one more tip that I don't have, but the ones I do have are the bimoji, the fine tip, the broad tip, and the medium bristle tip. Now, the fine tip and the broad tip both work really well in terms of, you know, doing, you know, the lines. The fine tip doesn't have a lot of differentiation between the thin and the thick downstrokes, but it's fun to write with, and if you're not as heavy-handed as I am, you probably have an easier time with it. The broad, though, is beautiful. It has a nice thin upstroke and a huge downstroke, so it makes some really beautiful brush lettering. It's also got the right amount of flexibility and firmness for me to make it so that it's a lot of fun to practice with. The medium bristle brush one breaks up a little bit when you use it, which can be frustrating if you're trying to get nice, neat looking brush strokes, but if you're trying to get like a painterly kind of sloppy look, which can be very cool looking depending on what you're doing, the medium bristle one is a lot of fun. Now I didn't look to see if these are sold in a set, but I did find that you can get the broad and the fine tipped one for $3.50 on Jet Pens each, and then for a little bit more, I think it's $4.20, you can get the medium bristle brush. Speaking of bristle brush, if you like that like loose painterly look, I keep using that word, it makes me sound like I'm super, you know, fancy. I'm not that fancy. But this is the Kuretake, it's the Cartoonist brush pen number 22, and it actually has like a well of ink in it, and I'm pretty sure you can refill this. Now this is extremely loose when you write with it, but it is fun, and you can get really fine lines with it. I think Cartoonists use this to create a whole bunch of different effects. So if you want to experiment with a brush pen that's like, feels kind of like a paintbrush, I would give this one a shot. It's a lot of fun, but it takes practice. It's also $7, but I am pretty certain that these are refillable. We're moving into markers. This is not going to be an exhaustive marker comparison because there are tons of those on YouTube, and I'm just not prepared to do that. I will talk more about them in a bit. Maybe I'll do especially Tombows because I love them so much. But for right now, I'm just going to give like a quick overview of some of the markers that I have that I made. One of them, 2 of them I'll probably use in my planner. The rest don't even go near your planner with them. But you can use them for coloring and for also like some other awesome effects. So Tombow markers. If you follow me on Instagram or if you watch my plan with me, you'll see that I use these in my planner. I use them a lot. I love to color with them. I love to write with them. And the Tombow just black dual brush pen, which is what these are, dual brush marker pens, is my favorite pen to practice brush lettering with because the tip is firm but flexible and it's nice and big. I have the most control over it, and because I have the full set, I have all the colors. So they're a lot of fun to play with. They blend really nicely, especially if you use water or a colorless blender, and I will show some other effects in another video of things you can achieve with your Tombows. If you want to buy some of these, you can get 10 packs of color sets that are kind of coordinated, like nature set or like a landscape or skin tones or whatever. For 10 pens, you can usually get for around 20 bucks. You can get individual pens on Jet Pens for around $2.50, $2.60. You can also get them at like an art supply store if you look. The set I have is the 96 color set. It has all of the colors. And that set is on Amazon at the moment for 140 bucks. And I love it. I got it for Christmas last year, 2 years ago, and it's been one of the best presents I've ever gotten. I've gotten so much use out of it. Love Tombows. Now for markers that you should never use in your planner ever. Ever. Copics. You will not use these in your planner. I'm telling you now. They will soak right through the paper. You don't want to do that. But they are fun to color with. They're fun to blend with. They're alcohol ink, so they blend beautifully, especially on like marker paper. They have each, the Copics, which are the Copic Sketch, which are the rectangular ones, have a bigger color variety, but they're more expensive. They are about $50 for a set of 6. The Copic Chows have the same ink, but less of a color variety, and there's less ink in the barrels. The barrels are also less ergonomic. They roll across your table, but they have the same nibs, and those run about $40 for a set of 6. I can go way more into Copics later, but I will say that I don't like lettering with either of them. Their nibs are too hard for me to control. I love coloring with them though, but again, not in your planner. We can come back to Copics at another time. Another set of brush markers that I don't really like lettering with, but I like coloring or stamping with, are Tim Holtz Distress markers. They come with a brush tip on one end and a bullet tip on the other end. They coordinate with his Distress ink stamping pads and his like inkers and stains. They're fun to use. They're great to use in art, and you could try them in your planner. They might bleed if you're heavy-handed on them, but they're not bad. But like I said, I don't like the nib for lettering. And you can get about a 5-pack of these for like 13 bucks. You can usually get them they might have like a set of them at Michael's or Joann's that you can get with a coupon. If you want an affordable option for alcohol markers that blend the way Copics do, check out Spectrum Noir markers on Amazon. These are actually about 20, you can get 24 of them for 45 bucks. And they have a beautiful color array, not as many colors as Copics, but there is a nice color array. There is no brush tip on them, which is why I hesitated putting them in this video in the first place, but I wanted to offer an alcohol marker selection that I like, that I color with, but that is comparable to Copics in terms of the way the ink blends. Again, this is a whole nother video in and of itself, but they don't have a brush end, they have a chisel tip end and a bullet tip end. So Spectrum Noir is something to look at. The final one I'm going to talk about is the Wink of Stella pens. These are brush pens that have metallic, like shimmery glitter, and it is glitter, like they do really neat effects. I have used this on like a week I've used gold washi in my planner. I've used the Wink of Stella gold marker to add some accents. They function more like a brush, so they can be a little difficult to control, but for adding bits of color and like a splash of sparkle, these are actually really fun to have around. And you can get a Wink of Stella marker on jet pens for like 6 bucks. I've seen them at Michael's. You can get, again, use a coupon on it if you want one. So that was the markers and brush pens that I have personally tried. Like I said, there are some that I can go deeper into, like the Tombows and the Copics at a later date. But just as an overview, think about what you want in a brush pen and then get a couple, practice with them, see what it is that you like. We'll be doing some more brush pen lettering technique on Llama's Love Lettering coming soon on my channel. So if you want to see more of that, please comment below. And hopefully I will get my next brush lettering tutorial up as soon as I feel comfortable posting it. Thanks for watching. I hope to enable you. Like I said, look down below. There will be links to all of the stuff I've talked about in case you do want to go like drop some dollar bills. And as always, please go find me on Instagram at Llama Letters and on the web at llamaslovelettering.com. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.